Because there's a lot of dudes out here, especially in this space, that have a lot of problems with loneliness. They don't have the kind of camaraderie and companionship that, I know at least we have, and that we're all developing, this very week. And I think that's important for guys, to focus on developing that camaraderie, that brothership, because the world we live in today tries to kind of isolate and separate men. Do you think that's a fair statement?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I also say that like a lot of guys right now in like the last like 2 or 3 generations, they don't have networks of like tribes of friends, right? Tribes of guys, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that like they don't know how to socialize, or they weren't raised socializing to understand like how to interrelate with other guys and like what to do. And I think whenever guys hit me up and they're asking me for counseling and stuff, one of the first questions I ask them is like, do you have friends? Do you have like a tribe? Like, do you have workout partners? Do you have guys that you play basketball with? Do you guys chess club? I don't care what it is. Like, what is there a group of like guys that you actually go and hang out with because you have a shared interest? And I think that a lot of guys right now, because of the internet and because of social media, we tend to look at the internet as this big like extroversion, right? When in fact it's really an introversion. You feel like you're part of something, but when you turn off the computer, you're still at home and you're just like by yourself. And loneliness is a big deal for guys.
And I think a lot of guys find at least a degree of companionship and camaraderie in places like the comment section of your YouTube community, in the live chat. It's the substitute, right? But it's not a real substitute for actually going out, doing shit, hiking in the California mountains, for example, and we've only been friends for like since January or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Very, very recently. But we've developed a very, very strong kind of bro code between us. And you say this all the time whenever we're talking about chicks back at home and stuff, is that there's no girl can kind of get in between what we have, because we've laid the foundation of like, these are kind of the unbreakable rules of how we interact as guys, right? Yeah. And a lot of dudes, maybe you can speak on this, I think a lot of dudes break that. They
fall into it.
They'll break their brotherly bonds over pussy like that, like really quickly.
Right. Well, so one thing I do say, and I think we both say, is like, there's no such thing as a female pallbearer.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, they're not taking you. Have you ever seen one? Yeah. I've not seen one. Yeah. And so, and at the same time, you cut that computer off, there's nobody beating on your door saying, hey, get up, bitch. We got to go to the gym.
Yeah.
You ain't sleeping in. So the internet can't save you from that. The internet can't save you from what we all fall into, where, what happens now is like guys have guy friends, but it's really just their girlfriend's boyfriend. Yeah. And that's not real friends, dude. Because I say all the time is fuck time, fuck blood. I don't care how long I've known a person, do our souls align or not. And so for that reason, you can get really close really fast. And I'm not as close to my brothers as I am to you. So for that reason, I think it's really, really, really important to stay around people in person.
Yeah, and like for all the guys out here watching who might be in, completely different places on the planet, and it can be a challenge. I think it can be quite a challenge to, one, not only just find guys you can hang out and do activities with, right? But two, especially because they're red-pilled, finding a guy who's not completely blue pill, who kind of understands the world the way you understand the world, and then you can go out and do stuff with him. Like, it's twice as hard for guys in this community, I think.
Right. Well, they're trying, like, again, it's this substitution of like real connection with guys. I've said this before, is that men do, women talk, right? And we tend to communicate, like the way that guys communicate is we have to have like a shared project. We have to have something that we have a shared interest. You'll notice that most of your friends are guys that either share like some kind of direction or some kind of purpose with you, or else they have like some kind of like, you're into the same sports, or you're into the same hobbies, you're into the, you like to fish, whatever they do too, that kind of stuff. Or whenever guys are communicating, it's usually over like fixing the car, right? Or watching there's some kind of action that's taking place. There's some sort of, for lack of a better term, there's like a problem to solve. And as you are collectively cooperating on solving that problem, then, or that purpose, whatever the purpose is, that's where you sort of make that point of connection with guys. And I like what you said about that there's no female pallbearers. It's funny because it reminded me of this one quote that I put in an essay a long time ago is, who would you trust to give the eulogy at your funeral? Would it be like one of these guys, one of your friends, or would it be like your wife, or would it be like your girlfriend? Who would be the best person to sort of give a summation of your life? Who knows you the best, so much so that it's like the last thing anybody ever says about you? Like, who would that be?
It would be one of my guy friends. There's no doubt, and I don't have a whole lot of them. There's a handful right now. It would be him, or one of the Tates, probably. To be quite honest with you, man. You know, because like.
Who knows the most about
you? You have to find people that understand you, that are on the same path as you. And I feel like the closer you can get to a person, the more raw you can be with them. You can tell them your deepest truths. And I think that's why it's very important to get around men, especially if you're a red pill guy, to get around another red pill guy, because anywhere else you can't even tell your truth without worrying about getting kicked out of the tribe in the first fucking place.
That's a big part there, is like not getting, it's like
keeps your frame.
Not getting snitched on by, you know, the blue pill guys out there,
or policed, self-policed, and
that's
that's
censored.
That's part of male space right now. A lot of feminization, a lot of gynocentrism wants to move into what were traditionally male spaces right now. You can make the comparison to politics or religion, all this other stuff, but it could be just a club. It can just be the male workspace. It can be whatever. Like if you're bringing right now, a lot of video game companies are having to deal with the fallout of wanting to get more women into programming, or in sort of the business, I guess, of that, and they're really struggling with this, because what they did is it's a traditionally male space that they brought women into, and what happens is the dynamic changes and it becomes less about whatever the project was, in this case like video games or whatever, but it could be anything. And what happens is when you bring women into male space, or they come into it, like, now you have to let us into your old boys, place.
The boys club. Yep.
It changes the dynamic, because the people who are, like the guys who are in there, will then switch over from being about whatever that space was about to being about inclusion, or bringing it like, well, we need to get their opinion. We need to have a woman's say.
It's not about the work anymore.
It's
not about the work at all anymore.
Yeah, or the passion, the ambition that started that organization in the first place. And so that's an easy illustration. But like what you were just talking about just a second ago is when you have guys who are not, red pill aware or whatever, they tend to police the thoughts of other guys, like locker room talk, right? I mentioned this in a chapter in a book I wrote called Male Space, and it's overseers in the locker room. And what happens is women come into that locker room, and they police the conversation, they police the thinking and everything else. And what happens is the guys who are already a part of that, who want to appease that female...
They're doing it to preserve their right to the women.
And so what they will do is they will police you for what they think the women want you to think.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. So they can preserve their right to that woman.
Right, well, it's
white knight shit.
It's intrasexual competition is what it is.